you know what it is. Coming from Media City here is an exercise in patience. Of course, some of you guys have more experience than I do with. As I said, I've worked for, what is it now, 14 years. At Nokia, in consulting companies, digital marketing agencies, and now at Dubbizle. Actually, today is my second anniversary here in Dubai.
Congrats.
Time flies when you're having fun. And we're going to talk about one of the languages I love, which is data. The beauty about it is that, in this day and age, you can really drive your business based on data. If you want to tweet or whatever, you have the keywords, the little hashtag there. Actually, we've been using it already, and I'm going to share this presentation using that. Let's get started. So, you've already heard this, aphorism of, in the olden days, they would say that, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted, but I don't know which half, right? That aphorism actually is not really correct, because, all of your marketing spend, if at least you have some sort of idea of what you're doing, will in one way contribute, but many marketers tend to leave their measurement for later. So, you will plan a campaign, you will launch a campaign, but you will forget what is the campaign for, and how will you measure that you've reached, the goal for that campaign. So, with data, we can, basically, as it says otherwise, right? The beauty of data really is that when you have a properly designed KPI framework, it's not anymore a discussion of opinions of I think this did well because, our brand awareness was, went off the roof, but actually what you wanted was, more sales or things like that. So the first thing is, it's not anymore about opinions, especially if you have one single source of data that everybody looks at, like dashboards and things like that. Then everybody is basically looking at the same numbers, and then you can have a conversation on the same basis. The second thing is that when you have, a metric, and we're going to talk a little bit about metrics and things, everybody should understand what is the definition of that metric. So, for example, if you talk about users or active users, then you need to define what an active user is. It's a person who has visited a website, who has done something within a specific period of time. And once those definitions are defined and agreed across your business, then it's also, a basis for your conversation. And also, people then understand if these are the criteria that I'm looking for, then it's going to be much easier for me to move those criteria. And the third very important thing is that, it's all about experimentation. Especially, on the internet. In the good olden days, you would, allocate, 1 million dirhams on a campaign on TV and radio, and then, let it live or let it die. Now with, in digital channels, you can pretty easily, basically start running your metrics every day or even every hour to understand when you should, when are the times when you actually can start moving your metrics. The other interesting thing, which I'm just gonna mention because it's important, is that, 10 years ago, people would talk about the digital world as if it were, like a separate, realm, on the internet nobody knows it about, kind of thing. And while maybe, especially, for people who didn't grow up with these technologies, maybe that was the case. But in reality, all these, technologies are actually helping us create data in our physical world. My phone measures my steps. I skateboard to the office, so it also measures, how long it takes me and how fast, etc. Or when I run. Then you have, for example, things like, and of course, if I had an Apple Watch, it would be cooler. Then, of course, you have things like iBeacons that are already being used in retail, where basically, you can start moving around a physical space in a retail environment, and those iBeacons will be basically customizing your experience there based on your position. Or things even like Jaguar and Tesla, all these nice new cars where, cars are basically computers with wheels. It's millions and millions of lines of code. My car's entertainment system doesn't talk very well with the Bluetooth on my phone, for example, which is a bug, it's not a feature. But that also means that, because these cars also have sensors and there's a way to get the data out, you can also personalize that experience. So for example, I've seen concepts here where when you drive into the service center, they would be able to basically greet you, like, hello, Mr. Lewis, thank you for coming for your 40K. And without any, image recognition or anything like that, because these cars have NFC tags. So, I said, it's, digital is or information basically, is becoming a layer on top of our physical world, and then it becomes a question of how do we use it? I'm pretty sure you've heard that there is this statistic, I don't know if it's made up or if it's real, that, the 99% of the world's information has been created in the past, what was it, 5 years or 2 years or something like that? A ridiculous amount of time, and it's because of this. And it's only gonna get faster. Of course, Cisco talks a lot about Internet of Things and all that, but when sensors become ubiquitous, it's not just chips, it's sensors. When they become ubiquitous, then basically the question is okay, what do you want to do? Which then gets you to the issues of privacy and all that. You're going to have a lawyer talking about this thing, or maybe he hasn't already.
No, we haven't.
Okay, later. Data privacy, we're not going to touch it, but it's a big subject. So moving on. So okay, how do I go around, designing my data, designing my data sources, designing what I'm looking for. So, the first thing is data types, and you can divide data into different ways. One is quantitative versus qualitative. So quantitative is basically any number. Like if you're thinking about balances, if you're thinking about cart abandonment rates, if you're thinking about the standard usage page use, blah blah blah. And whereas qualitative is more the output of focus groups, interviews. It's kind of like more soft data that actually with things like natural language processing, you can actually treat as quantitative data if your algorithms are good enough to actually process these free texts. And also the interesting thing about qualitative is that it will, quantitative can tell you what's going on, and of course you can design experiments and all that. But qualitative, especially in the beginning, if you have a little bit of patience, it will also tell you why it's going on. So it's it's a little bit of a balance between these two. The thing with qualitative data is that it's much more laborious to get because you have to set these things up all the time. Even if, of course, you can set up online focus groups, pretty much automatically these days. I just don't call that vendor for that. But the point really being that it all kind of comes together. So that's one way of looking at data. The other way of looking at specifically metrics, and we're going to talk about metrics further in a minute, is vanity metrics versus actionable metrics. And how many of you have read Lean Startup?
What's that?
Lean Startup. Read. So it's basically the geek Bible in Silicon Valley. You know how these guys are, super full of themselves. But it is true. One of these concepts that actually has been adopted by a lot of these companies is the idea of separating your metrics between metrics that actually look really nice but don't do anything, that maybe are not very easy to move, and metrics that actually mean something for your business. So 1 million page views is not necessarily something that will move your business if you're, for example, an e-commerce company. Because it could be that you're getting 1 million page views because your competitors are scraping your website, even if it's illegal. Or you have a lot of visitors, but you don't see what the visitors do. Whereas actionable metrics are actually things that, depending on your business, can actually tell you the health of your business and and can tell you actually what you need to do. So for example, you're an e-commerce company, shopping cart abandonment is a basic one. Like how many people didn't finish their purchase? Because you've already spent all this money trying to get them to your store, basically, but they didn't finish. Okay, what are the things that we can do to change it? It could be UI, it could be messaging, it could be colors, it could be, all sorts of stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, talking about strategy, you're going to hear, especially when you start, doing marketing planning and all these things, a lot about KPIs. So, what's a KPI? A KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. And the whole point is that, it's a smart metric, and business book authors love these acronyms and stuff. But you can think of it as like specific, measurable, assignable, or actionable, realistic, and time-related. Why are each of these important? Specific tells you, says what is in the table. Measurable is something that you can actually, tag or look at, basically. Assignable or actionable, something that you can actually move. So, for example, I'm not a big fan personally of NPS, Net Promoter Score, because even though an NPS is an interesting metric, it's not very easy to move either way. And in many cases, it will not depend on the marketing department. It's a cross-functional task. So, NPS for marketing, probably not the best thing. NPS for the whole organization, as long as you actually focus on it. Realistic, so also, thinking about, well, we have 5 loyal users today, and we want 5 million. Okay, cool, yeah, sure, but where's your money? Show me the movement. And of course, time-related. Why time-related is so important? Because one of the things that you will do all the time is not only measure things, but measure them across time. And not only time as in days, but hours. One of the things that we see, for example, and you can see studies from Ipsos and all these market research companies, is that usage of internet properties actually changes with Ramadan. And we wouldn't know that if we actually didn't measure it actually on something called timestamp. So, like the day, the hour, the minute, the second of it. Metrics become or graduate to KPIs if they actually do 2 things. One, have the ability to actually show you an impact on your business. And the second one is contributing to achieve the higher objective of your business. So what do I mean by the higher objective? So the only pyramid I'm going to show you, even though I'm originally from Mexico, it's about how do you plan your metrics and your KPIs, right? So as a company, you will have an objective. Maybe it's well, we're gonna show actually a couple of examples that I made on the fly based on public information, because I can actually do this once. Of course, to reach that objective, you have a strategy. It could be differentiation, it could be customer acquisition, it could be depends on what your business is. And then once you decide, okay, I want to go there, and I want to go there through this road, then you start basically putting your odometer on the car, and to measure the kilometers or the meters that you've gone since, and of course the time is also important, as we mentioned. So you have strategic KPIs which define how do you contribute to the strategy? Then tactical performance indicators that contribute to these strategic KPIs. And then operational performance indicators that are, like individual things that you will measure in a marketing campaign that actually help you with the tactical, that have the way build on the strategic KPIs, that actually tell you that I'm doing something to improve my business. So, a couple of examples. If I'm a media company, say Golf News, right? So they want, they boast about being the most read English language newspaper in the UAE. So I would not be surprised if their objective is to continue in that market leading position. Their strategy, as you can see from their website, is to offer the latest news and the best editorial content, supported in their case by advertising and subscriber revenue. I forgot the subscriber revenue. So of course, what are they going to measure? They're going to measure revenue and they're going to measure readership, because one feeds off the other. At the macro level, the 30,000 feet level. So when you look at, what you're going to measure in each department, you're going to measure things like revenue per segment, for your sales teams, for your lead acquisition teams. You're going to measure readership for your editorial teams, of course. And then when you look at the little numbers that each of these teams might be looking at, depending on their activity, you can have like the length of an advertising contract. You can have renewing advertisers, so to reduce churn, because there's only so many advertisers in this world, even if it's a big world. Returning visitors, the same thing with people. I mean, it's 7 billion people, it's only 7 billion. And I don't know how many of those are actually interesting news. That's the story. Pages for returning visitors to see, consumption, most read stories to understand, things like what are things that your readership is interested in. Most shared, because most read is actually not always the same as most shared. Renewing subscribers to understand, like what is the health of your customer pipeline. And for example, if the web is just an ancillary product to their paper, to the newspaper, then things like paper subscriber logins, to say, okay, we offer the newspaper is our main service, but we want to understand how many of our subscribers actually use something on the web, and how we can use them to keep them and to cross-sell to them, to sell those items to advertisers, etc., etc. So of course, we all know that that the media business is not particularly easy right now, and I'm pretty sure that either somebody will come with better metrics than this, or we will all read blogs on Dubbizle. Another example, which is more kind of closer to my heart, this is an e-commerce website. If you're interested, they're actually hiring at the moment, I believe, and it is actually quite interesting. It's totally not my thing, but it's very Dubai. So it's a service that allows women to rent designer dresses at 90% of the designer price, of the price tag. Sorry, 90% off, of course. So like,
exactly.
What is it? Yeah. So like, of course, their objective, as they see it, is to give women access to these like wonderful, luxurious experiences that change the meaning of dressing, as they say. So how are they doing that? By allowing women to rent designer dresses at 90% off their retail price, and also doing customer experience relation on the back of it all. So what are the things that I would expect them to measure, especially because they're a startup? Of course, customer acquisition, so new customers, new fashion houses, so like their supply line, and equity earn rate, because money doesn't grow on trees, except in the bottom, maybe we wouldn't have trees. So of course, if those are the three things that you're looking at, then the cost of your activities becomes super important, right? So you look at customer acquisition cost, fashion house acquisition cost, churn, things like that. And then when you look at, when you go one level down to, the everyday things, right? Then you can look at, the most rented dresses, or the most rented dresses by designer. I don't know any designers, but I'm pretty sure that there is a definite, top 10. Yeah, I've only heard about Google Times from Sex and the City, that's a good story. Customer return and churn rate to reduce, your customer acquisition costs. Referrals, also to reduce your customer acquisition costs. Basket abandonment as well, to make sure that your customer acquisition costs are actual acquisition. So, these kind of, layered cake, if you wish, of knowing, okay, this is where we're going as a company. These are the three things that really matter to us. And then what does that mean for department? And then what does that mean for marketing in this case, or for product, or for sales, etc., etc. So at the end, it's not only strategic marketing planning, but it's strategic planning. And especially for these businesses that are digital businesses, if it's your bread and butter, then you need to make sure that it's at the core, right? So moving on, okay, you have defined all these numbers that you're looking at. So then there is two ways of looking at these numbers. One is funnels, the other one is customer journey. And if there's any engineers in the room, it's a little bit like looking at different integers and stuff like that. So it's kind of like looking at something, looking at you and looking at the mirror version of you. So funnel of course is the standard web to the toe way of looking at the customer paths. So awareness, reach, conversation, retention. And then, you start looking at, okay, if these are the main metrics that I have as a business, and these are the main metrics that I have as an organization, then for each of my activities, I define how am I going to reach my tactical performance indicators. So again, we come back to the same thing. So if I have cost of acquisition, then the next thing is looking at, okay, what did they do on the website? And did they actually do it? And did they actually keep on doing it? So that's one way of looking at it. And of course, it looks, the second way you can actually bring it together is through customer lifecycle stages. The second way of looking at it, and I said, they're both versions of the same thing, is customer journeys and customer experience. So at the end, what you want is to make sure that all these, metrics and all this data is also used not only to measure, but to improve the way you deliver your service, to basically make customers happy, because a happy customer is a paying customer, at least most times. So really, you look at all of these data points, and depending on the touch point here, you decide which are what are the data points that are going to help me customize that experience. So and it becomes kind of like a much longer conversation, and you end up with like monster Excels, but basically data points that can help you customize that interaction, data points that you measure in that interaction, and data points that can help you bring the customer to the next phase or touch point in your customer journey. And the beauty of it is that when you have this whole matrix, then you can very easily think about what are the things that you want that customer to do, how do you want the customer to do it, and at the same time, how do you make sure that those things fulfill your business objectives. So moving on,
So what's the brick and mortar?
Retail.
Retail?
Yes. So you know, like for example, like the case with ID and so on. So for example, what does that mean for your decision-making process? I mean, it's wash, rinse, repeat. So basically, when you have actually had time to sit down and say, okay, these are the things that I want to do, and these are the things. This is how the things that I want to do this, how I want to do them, then the next step is actually deploying them, right? But of course, it's not launch and forget. I mean, that's so Mad Men. They have great cocktails, but you know, the point really being that once you launch, as I mentioned in the beginning, you keep on following up, and it could be every day, it could be every week. You sit down and you say, okay, how are we doing against the things that I agreed to measure? And then, depending on how you're doing, or you know, like even then, just to test, you change something. It might even be just a color. It might be, you know, wording. It might be something else, or you try something else, and you keep on doing this all the time. And the beauty of, you know, like, well, I wouldn't call it the digital medium, the digital techniques, is that you can just keep on doing it. We do this at Dubbizle all the time, and we don't do it only for marketing. We do it for a product. So we concept, what are we going to do with the product? Launch it, check it, and then we decide what are we going to do with that. So it's not like, I mean, the thing about, you know, this slide, besides making sure that your clothes are shiny, is to ensure really that this becomes a way of working for your business. You know, it's not just saying that I'm going to do it, but actually doing it and keep on doing it. You know, it's like, how many of you guys, you know, go for a run, or, you know, go to the gym, or, you know, practice a sport, or like reading. You know, it's something that in order for you to do, you have to keep on doing it. You know, it has to kind of like become part of, you know, the way you breathe. Furthermore, you know, just moving on. So, like, what are the kind of tools that you use for these things? And I'm going to talk about, you know, my personal experience, because, you know, I love these things. So, I mean, you won't get rid of Excel, even though all of us would like to get rid of Excel. It's not happening. But the thing really with Excel is that Excel becomes a data manipulation tool for other more powerful tools, or vice versa. So, for example, in the case of many internet organizations, they pull different bits and pieces of data into, you know, databases, or what, as they call them in the lingo, data warehouses, because they're so big that, you know, just the databases. Period. But the point really is that even if, you know, the structured query language sounds scary because it's like code, it's simple to actually understand, and two, it gives you the power to message that data, feel that data, try to understand what you actually can get out of your data. And then decide with that what you're going to do. Then, of course, you know, web analytics, super important, you know, if it's Google Analytics or, you know, ATI, et cetera. I mean, you won't, especially if you, of course, have a website, you won't get rid of that. On the contrary, I mean, especially things like Google Analytics Professional have very, very powerful tools to, you know, slice and dice data. But the tool that I love, and that, parenthesis commercial, I actually met these guys yesterday, and they have a student offer, so you can basically download it for free, is this thing at the bottom called Tableau. So it's, how do they call it? They call it a visual analysis tool. So what you do is that you can connect to any of these sources of information and just start slicing and dicing data. And it's all drag and drop. So for example, you know, you have a big Excel table with all your orders from the website. Then you can join that with your Google Analytics to see the sources of these orders based on, you know, a unique key identifier or things like that. Then you can join that with your, you know, with your database, you know, this whole big data, which is data, to actually look further into the activity in your system, or, you know, like your CRM, et cetera, and actually create pretty cool visualizations So just check it out. It's tableau.com. I think they have tableau.com students for students. And with a little bit of patience and big enough data sets, it's like magic. I mean, they actually have blogs for data visualization. So they will show you the visualization of the day, and it could be things like everything: mortality rates, e-commerce, or I don't know, the spread of the fruit fly in a specific laboratory test experiment. But the point being is that once you see these information as graphs, not as just big Excel, so like SQL queries or whatever, it actually becomes clear what you need to do. So I'll give you a tip: don't use pie charts ever. A pie chart tells you proportions, but it actually won't tell you numbers. So it could be that 20% of my customers are buying, and I expected it to be 5, so woo-hoo, but I have 5 items. A pie chart will tell you that, or it won't tell you that in an easy glanceable way. So for example, instead of pie charts, use things like stack bars. And it sounds ridiculous to say these things, but actually when you start looking at data this way, you realize, oh yeah, that's obvious. I have like a big valley here. What's that? The other interesting thing with these tools, and I mean, you can use Tableau or MicroStrategy for that, is that then, depending on your data infrastructure and all those, geeky techy things, you can create dashboards. So, instead of logging to Web Analytics and looking at visits, you actually look at, I get something from Google Analytics, and I get something from the databases, and I get something from somewhere else, and I actually look at my customer journey, across time. So I know how many people went from coming to the website to browsing the dresses page, for example. How many people went from browsing the dresses page to placing something in the cart? How many people went from placing something in the cart to actually buying it? How many people went from actually buying it to returning the dress? And how many of them actually came and bought again? So